But I don't know. Andrew Tate to me is kind of interesting because he's a combat sports guy. He's a kickboxer. And he's giving like, he's now become like a popular podcaster, social media personality. Um, he's just one of those guys who gives like advice for mostly for young men, and he's really, really confident about what he's saying. He's a pretty masculine guy, so like a lot of young people are susceptible to his message, whether it's, very true or not. I think some things he says are true. I think a lot of the stuff he says is nonsense. He's just saying it very confidently, and if you say anything confidently, people are going to believe it. I could tell you I'm a zebra, and if I say it enough times with enough conviction, like, no, I am legit. I am a zebra. What do you mean? I'm a zebra. I could probably convince a lot of people I'm a zebra. But so I don't know. Someone sent me this. Maybe there's something worth watching in it for me. I'm mostly just interested to see how this plays out. Someone says Andrew Tate is Eddie, but right wing. Dude.
As you're doing the rounds on Twitch here, and a lot of the things that you said that you've been called out on, specifically in regards to like women driving, as a matter of fact, are just generally untrue. There's no empirical evidence to back up those claims, which is why you resort to anecdotes quite frequently and say things like, oh, well, it's just common sense, right? But it's not technically common sense. It's just your personal opinion.
Completely. It's my personal opinion based on my personal biases of my life experience. And when I say exactly. And when I say these things, X amount of people agree with me and X amount of people disagree with me. That's fine. And that's the same with nearly any statement in the world.
Okay,
I can say the world is round and there'll be a percentage of people who disagree with me. That's totally and utterly fine. I come on here and talk about my own personal experiences.
Is this too fast? I know Andrew Tate talks really fast. Can you let me know if you can't hear in the chat? I'll slow her down.
My experience men are better drivers than women. I'm not saying there's no good female drivers. I'm not saying a female can't.
No. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. There is a truth, and then there is your own personal experiences backed by anecdotes, right? Or your own personal opinion backed by anecdotes from your own personal experiences. Now, your own personal experiences are oftentimes going to be incorrect and not close to the reality. That's why there's an entire field of statistical analysis. That's why we do empirical. That's why we rely on empirical evidence when we're making decisions. Why? Because we all carry a bunch of personal biases. And when we analyze situations, we do not have enough scope to grasp the entirety of the situation. We cannot comprehend it with our human brains.
Bro, listen,
which is why when it comes to women driving, it's a funny point because the truth is different. The truth.
Sorry, my mic was off. But honestly, Hasan's making a good point. And this is something a lot of like confident men in combat sports, honestly, because that's just a good percentage of the people I'm around are that. They sometimes are smart and intelligent and articulate, and they can articulate their thoughts well, but their thoughts are basically just based on their own opinions, and then they conflate their own opinions as fact, and it's things they have learned from their life experience, but then they say, like Joe Rogan talks about this a lot, like this is what I went through, and when I made this switch, when I decided to start doing this, that's when I got rich and famous, and therefore I figured it out at that point. And it's like, not necessarily, he could have gone down a different path. And like Hasan saying there, we're all limited in our own experience of what we could possibly know. And that's something that's hard to wrap your head around until you start reading a lot, honestly. And, you just have to get a little bit older because as you develop in the brain, and out of childhood, you become less egotistical in general. You can put yourself in other people's shoes. But as you start to read, especially if you read a lot of nonfiction or a lot of political theory, you realize like, oh, I'm really dumb. Like, yeah, I could be smart in my own head. I could have had a lot of smart thoughts. But there's only so far that can take you, right? You need to read smart thoughts from other people, or you need to read investigations that people have done, or there have been like teams of researchers, who've conducted hours and hours and hours and days of research, and then they distill their arguments into a book, and it's a really quick way to transfer information from one brain to another. So in this way, you can collect information from other people's experiences and use them to inform your own, and you utilize other people's research. And none of that is possible, without reading, without taking the time to actively engage with and think about other people's ideas. So there's a lot of people who don't do that. In my own personal experience, there's a lot of people in combat sports who don't do that. and they just kind of, take their attitude that they have about combat sports and apply that everywhere else. Which is, you need to be kind of confident in combat sports and stuff, but I don't know. It's not the best attitude for like looking at politics or looking at things academically, because you need to contemplate other people's opinions and other people's experiences a lot. And because we can't know what we don't know, it's really hard to understand that if you haven't like read it all, and if you've just based your entire worldview off of your own life experience, and especially if you've built a huge audience and podcast off of that life experience. Okay, kind of a long rant there about that tiny little thing Hasan just said, but that's something I've been wanting to talk about forever.
This is the exact opposite.
Woman face.
No, but listen. First things first. There's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. I'm sure you've heard that from Mark Twain. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you're deriving.
You can massage. Yeah, you can massage numbers, but
you're deriving your truth from an internet study. That's fine. You can derive your truth from an internet study on a bunch of different things. The truth of life is the truth that you experience as an.
And this is a thing that people like this will do a lot. The ones who not only they like refuse to read or engage with other arguments, and then they're like, not only that, but I'm still smarter than you, even though I don't read books, even though I don't engage with other people's arguments, because that's all just numbers. It's like, no, it's not. Theories are not strictly quantitative. They involve quantities and qualities. It's not just the harvesting of a bunch of numbers. And if you take issue with numbers, you can investigate the methodology of that study, find how they came to the numbers. You can make qualitative assessments of that study. You could say, what are they actually studying? How did they carry this out? And that doesn't have anything to do with numbers. It's how they gather numbers. It's how they gather quantitative data. But studies and academic research and books are, make qualitative assessments as well. So that, again, it's just something obvious you would hear from someone who doesn't read. It's like condescending as that sounds. It's like, come on, we all had the reading rainbow. We should all be reading Marx by now.
Individual. That is the only truth that we all live within. You live within your truths, I live within my truths, because these are the truths I've experienced as an individual. If certain things happen to you over and over and over and over and over again, but
yes, and it's the ultimate expression of individualism. I have my truth, you have your truth, and there's no universal truth. We can't come together and do a study and find out the truth about this microphone and how it actually works and how the electrical currents work. I think it works by magic, and that's my truth, and that's what I'm going to believe, and I'm not going to read anything that tells me different. That's basically the same kind of logic Andrew Tate's using.
The truth on the internet says it's not true. That doesn't mean that your experiences are any less real. So if you to come here and say the internet says X, especially
your experiences can be real. You could be a statistical anomaly, as a matter of fact. You can be one of those people, but more often than that,
then I don't want to talk to you, because I keep letting you talk and you're finishing your point and I'm trying to talk. So
okay, go ahead.
I'm going to. The fact that you're going on the internet, finding some study and saying that this is the truth, especially after the age of COVID and all the fucking truth we were told with that garbage, you want to sit here and say, oh, the internet said X. I'm sure the internet did. I'm talking about my personal experiences, and some people agree with me and some people do not. That is perfectly fine.
It's not the internet. Do you know what research is? Do you understand what scientific research is? It's groups of people using the scientific method to investigate things. And yeah, there's a lot of variance there, and a lot to criticize when you talk about social sciences, right? Like studies and analysis of various social phenomena, things in society, or things that aren't necessarily quantitative, that you can't necessarily put a number on. But, those studies are still often very, very useful, because they conduct massive surveys or massive research of giant populations of people, which can tell us things. Or, if the studies are bunk, if they don't, use the scientific method in a way that gathers valuable data and research, you have to look into the study and explain why the methodology is wrong, explain why we should listen to your personal experiences rather than the study, and you can dismiss them all as just, internet studies that, can't be listened to. But there's a wide array of studies. There's a lot of studies in the field of healthcare administration, which I'm getting a graduate degree in right now. There's a ton of studies that I would tell you not to listen to. that I would tell you are bunk and that are funded by corporations to try and get you to think a certain way. But then I could go through each study and tell you why, tell you at which place they slipped up, and I can take the arguments of my opponent, steelman them, say, this is what they're saying, this is why they're wrong. Andrew Tate is like, don't listen to that. It's all stupid internet stuff. Listen to me. Like, no, scientific research is real. Using the scientific method to gather data and information is real. And there's a lot to criticize about the way modern, a lot of studies are conducted. And there's a lot to criticize about capitalist academia and, how capitalism treats the human intellect overall. How capitalism treats intellectual pursuits overall. But the scientific method and research are very, very valuable, and they're much, much more valuable than like Andrew Tate's personal opinions. And the only kind of person who thinks their personal opinions are more important than research and, I don't know, classical texts or works of political theory or, anything like that you would find by reading. Anyone who thinks their personal opinions make them smarter than they would be if they were reading is someone who hasn't read like literally anything.
Don't give a fuck if people agree with me or otherwise. People are listening to me and they're either agreeing with me or
but
not.
you're still wrong, and that's the problem.
I disagree with you.
Do you want to be right, or do you want to keep speaking into a hug box where people agree with you? And
Prove to me I'm wrong.
Well, if you just completely devalue empirical evidence, actuarial sciences, the entirety of the insurance industry that relies on making these sorts of calculations to ensure that these quotes are as profitable as possible, which ends up charging men higher rates than women, as a statistical likelihood that men are more dangerous drivers than women across the board and get into more car accidents across the board. If you're going to look at all of that and say it doesn't matter because that does not correspond to my own personal experiences, then you're silly. You're being silly.
Oh man, he wrecked him. Wow, Andrew Tate just got dunked on. Hasan said everything I said, but in a more concise way, because he's probably a more practiced debater. Yeah, just proved my point there with the driving argument. Like, no, reading what other people have said about this and reading what research has said about this will make you more informed on this issue than your personal opinion. And you should be willing to change your personal opinion if presented with counterfacts. I'm really interested to see what Andrew Tate is going to say, but I want to stop. The reason I stopped is because someone says even his fighting is based on science, like Andrew Tate's. Yeah, they call Andrew Tate's a kickboxer. They call boxing the sweet science. And I wrestle. There's tons of technique, that is either stored in wrestlers' minds or is written down or on DVDs or whatever. And, the best way to get better at technique is to learn from others. If you just have no coach, there's no amazing fighter who's had no coach and never learned anything from other people. That doesn't even make sense. The more you study the sport, the more technique you're going to have. And if you practice those techniques, you can apply them. It's the same with reading about anything, Andrew. Other people are smart. They've done a lot of research and written good things. Not everybody who's written a book is worth listening to, but there's probably some facts in every book, and some books are packed to the brim with knowledge and will make you a lot smarter as an individual. Oh, no.
A silly person. If everyone thought like you did, right, we would have no scientific achievements on this planet. We would still be living inside of fucking caves. As much as I love Liver King personally, I don't think that that would be a good planet to live on. I'm pretty happy for, I don't know, all the medical achievements, all the scientific achievements that we have reached. And at the heart of all of that, all of those accomplishments lies an understanding of arriving at the truth through empirical evidence.
You done?
Yeah.
Cool. In my personal experiences,
Iowa homeowners, if you'd like to erase your electric bill for free this
He's so dumb, and you can tell he's just so used to being a jerk and like either bullying people that he has on his show, like just by speaking over them and acting tough. Or he probably bullies people physically in real life, but he's like, "Are you done? Are you done?" Like, yeah, he's done destroying everything you just said and making you look like a ding dong. Like, I can tell. How mad are you now, Andrew? I can hear it in your voice. Take a deep breath before you start this next statement.
Car crashes I've been involved in, all the times my car was hit, and all the negative experience I've had on the road, women were at fault. That is, now you can sit here and say the insurance claims say that. I never said the insurance claims don't say that. I'm saying that I am not comfortable with women driving because of my personal experience. Those are my personal experiences. You can drag up all the empirical evidence in the world you want to try and drag up. Anyone with a brain knows how that aids the world agendas anyway. I don't want to go too political on a stream that's going to get taken down. So I'm not saying that.
What is this guy talking about? Hasan's pro Medicare for all, so he's in favor of abolishing the insurance industry. Or I mean, I guess we're talking about car insurance here, but most socialists are not pro insurance company. They're in favor of nationalized insurance, but you can, look at what data and research the insurance companies are producing. Like, they need this car insurance data not to push an agenda, but they need it so they can make profit. So they can understand what rates to charge people and how they can pull in revenue that's going to make them money. So, Hasan's not pro insurance industry or pro, nefarious political agenda, whatever the hell Andrew Tate's talking about. We're anti-insurance industry, but we recognize when there's no conflict of interest there, and the insurance industry is actually saying something that's true. If the insurance industry was telling us that, like, if the insurance industry said Medicare for all is gonna cost a bunch of money, we know that all the academic studies prove that wrong, and it doesn't make sense because the insurance companies are making massive profit, and Medicare for all would get rid of that. I'm talking about health insurance now. Then maybe there'd be a conflict of interest. Then I'd be like, okay, let's investigate this study. Maybe the insurance industry is lying about this. Maybe they're fudging the numbers. But not about car insurance claims. They need those numbers for their profits. There's no conflict of interest there. And Andrew Tate's like, those are just used to push this nefarious world agenda, but I don't want to get too political. Or like, dude, your brain is mush. You're saying nonsense. Just give up. Just admit you don't really know what you're talking about here, and you need to think about it more.
I can't find a female race car driver. I'm not saying that.
That's not what I'm saying either. I'm not talking about like statistical anomalies. I'm straight up talking about the overwhelming amount of evidence that suggests that women are more careful drivers than men. Okay? And therefore better drivers than men. You keep resorting back to your personal anecdotes. So let me walk you through this, right?
Brother,
do you agree that human beings have biases?
Do me a favor.
Okay. But hey, I respected your time. Do you want to answer my question? Do you believe that human beings have biases?
Oh, absolutely. We're all biased.
Okay.
Completely.
Do you think that those biases might cloud your judgment?
It's not about clouding judgment.
Not just your personal not just your own personal judgment. Do you think our biases might cloud our personal judgment?
I think every single person on earth is biased and lives within a biased
reality.
Absolutely.
That's absolutely true. If you agree with me on both of those accounts, you understand that your anecdotes, your own personal accumulation of information is going to be clouded by your own personal biases. So you're not going to be able to assess the information adequately in the same way that empirical evidence would. This is precisely why we look at data rather than make arguments around our... Wait, let me finish. Come on.
I understand what you're saying.
This is precisely why we do that.
We went over the same point like 5 times here.
Everyone's saying kick you. You're long-winded the point. You're saying that the empirical evidence is saying X, so it doesn't matter what my personal experience is. That's fine. My point is, let me change it. Let's say that the empirical evidence says that a pit bull is more likely to bite you than a Dalmatian. But in your life experience, every time you went near a Dalmatian, it bit you, and a pit bull never did. Are you going to go up to a Dalmatian still completely and go, oh, it's fine, completely unbiased because the empirical evidence says X when you're covered in scars? No, you're going to say Dalmatians bite me for some reason, and I'm not comfortable around Dalmatians. That's called human nature. Okay. So I'm telling you my personal experiences, and I don't care.
But you're saying that women shouldn't be allowed to drive. So you're saying that this decision should be made for everybody in the country or in the world based on your personal experience. It's not, I got bit by a Dalmatian, but I had a pet pit bull. So I'm more likely to go pet a pit bull. Sure, yeah. We all agree with that. That's bias. But, it's good to use empirical evidence or scientific analysis when we're talking about making policy for everyone. And there's, not a single shred of data or evidence that says women are worse drivers than men. So you can try and, sure, convince everybody of your personal experience, but that makes no sense. And you're spreading falsehoods to your audience, and you're promoting, straight up bigotry, anti-scientific bigotry. So, I mean, really what this is, which is, it's fascinating to watch, is it's somebody who's so egotistical and so set in their ways and their own opinions that they are literally arguing their own personal life experience is more valuable information than the scientific method. And we shouldn't make government policies or policies for everyone based on, maximizing human flourishing and based on scientific research and empirical evidence, but, based on the personal opinion of who? Of Andrew Tate, I guess, and his podcast audience. I mean, arguing for women to not be able to drive is political, right? So you're not just talking about your own personal experiences anymore. You're talking about politics and the way that we run and manage society and government. Thank you so much, Paul Dilly, for $9.99, a whole $1. Thank you for the super chat and for supporting us at Midwestern Marks. Really appreciate this. Science is great. Y'all pulled me out of my postmodern, neo-Marxist, anti-science leftism. Long live Lukács and Midwestern Marks. Wow. Thank you, Paul. I'm so glad to hear that. So glad to hear that. I assume you enjoyed the Gabriel Rockhill interview. That was one of my favorite interviews we've ever done as well. So thank you for your financial support. You are the reason we do what we do. All right. You are the reason we can do what we do, I should say. Let's watch one more clip here and see if we get anything interesting out of old Andrew.
I understand your point. Empirical evidence says X. Women in this country can do X. I completely get that. For secondly, it's also country by country because you're only talking about America because you're American and you don't see outside of the world. That's fine.
I'm Turkish, actually. I grew up in Turkey.
That's not the point. That's not the point I'm making.
You're American. You don't see out of the American world. I'm Turkish. That's not the point I'm making. Well, it is. That is what you just said, but okay.
Human nature. Okay. So I'm telling you my personal experiences, and I don't care. I understand your point. Empirical evidence says X. Women in this country can do X. I completely get that. For secondly, it's also country by country because you're only talking about America because you're American and you don't see outside of the world. That's fine.
I'm Turkish, actually. I grew up in Turkey.
That's not the point. That's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is I'm uncomfortable with a woman driving. And if you actually ask most women, if it gets late at night or it starts getting dark or it starts raining heavily or the parking gets difficult, they usually ask the man to drive themselves. I know many women who do that. They're not offended by my assumption. I know loads of women who go, oh, I don't want to park. You park it. Loads. There's not a bad thing about it. Who gives a shit, right? It's not even a big deal. You've come on here deciding you really want to stick up for the chicks and maybe, one of them will drive over to your house. It's cool. We've got better things to talk about.
I look, let's be real. I don't think I need to be
He's so used. I don't know if he's just used to debating like high school nerds. Oh, you're over here. I get it. You're saying that women deserve the right to drive. Because you think that's gonna get girls to sleep with you. It's Hasan Piker. He's super famous on the internet, and he's known for being like having like millions of leftist women drool over him. You think he takes the position that women deserve to drive so that he can get girls? Dude. And what are you talking about? Like, you don't see outside of America, everybody else around the world agrees with me. Like, where? Saudi Arabia? Even in Saudi Arabia, they've now given women the right to drive. That was like the last place in the world, by the way, U.S.-backed monarchy who didn't give women the right to drive for years. But even they do now. And again, it's women are going to ask, women want men to drive late at night. Okay, drive your wife home from the bar then, dog. Drive your wife home from the bar. That doesn't mean we're going to ban female drivers. That doesn't mean we all need to live in your weird fantasy world where you're uncomfortable with women driving cars. Also, who are these guys? Are these his fans? Are these people he debated? Now they're Andrew Tate stans? I don't know. This is Andrew. He's melting down. He's literally melting down. Like telling Hasan Piker, this attractive celebrity, that he supports women's right to drive because he wants to get with girls. This is hilarious. All right, one more clip. This is too funny.
Male feminists to be able to attract women, okay? However, having said that, that was a funny implication. Having said that, you are failing to recognize what I am trying to say. I walked you through these steps slowly but surely. The thing is, the Dalmatian example that you gave is great because you are creating now a hypothetical scenario in which you want your opponent to concede. I can do the exact same thing and say, well, in my personal experience, Dalmatians never bite, or pit bulls never bite, whichever one you thought was the more aggressive breed, right? In my personal experience, what if in a million times that I have bred pit bulls or been around pit bulls, not a single one of them has ever been aggressive? We will never be able to arrive at a meaningful solution or a resolution to this conversation if we're both operating on personal anecdotes and hypotheticals. That is not how you can conduct an appropriate debate.
Good. So now you're saying the thing I just said.
Gooder. $25 active sunglasses.
I want to see how Andrew Tate responds to this. And then that'll be the last thing we watch. But thank you so much, Molly McGuire. It's payday for this worker. Enjoy your favorite beverage. Cheers. Thank you, Molly. $20. Holy crap. That is a lot of money. Thank you for your support. I don't know if I'll enjoy it. Maybe I'll get a beer with that money today. On you, Molly, since that's what you suggested I spend it on. But thank you. Hope you enjoy your payday, and I hope you get to enjoy the weekend.
Kings of Samaria.
You know,
personal experiences, and I say them. Some people disagree, and some people agree, and I don't care. You
Yes.
now come along.
But you're still wrong, though, because I'm not operating on biases when I talk about women driving. I'm talking about the empirical evidence. I might have personally thought women are worse at driving than men as well. But once you arrive at, once you look at the evidence and you realize that said evidence suggests.
Okay, we can be done with this. We've gotten to the gist of it. That's the most I've ever liked Hasan. I'm not obvious. I think people know that I'm not like the biggest Hasan guy. I've had criticisms of him. He's good. But that was one of the most I've ever liked him because he did good there. He basically explained how Andrew Tate thinks his own opinions mean more than the scientific method, which is just so egotistical and dumb. Ooh, thank you, Molly. Solidarity. I saw this. Hasan destroyed him. Also, hi, Eddie. Hi, Kyle. Yeah, Hasan destroyed him. People are talking about how, complaining about Andrew Tate being like a pipeline for young boys to the alt-right. And yes, in combat sports boys probably, but I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're here to combat that, right? I made a video that got actually quite a few views telling like Andrew Tate fans, like, come be a Marxist. Marxists are tough. Capitalists and fascists are ultimately wusses and simps to the ruling class and anti-science and full of nonsense. And they don't actually work hard when it comes to developing themselves intellectually. They just talk a whole lot about working hard and chasing money. But their brains are empty. So if you want to be a real tough guy, follow Midwestern Marx and work out with me.